Captain James Rook hadn't slept in 31 hours. The hum of the Hawthorne's edge was steady beneath his boots, but his mind stayed restless. Dresden Reach still lingered on the ship's forward cameras, a colony that had once held 300 settlers now left in eerie silence. The medical bay had stabilized the injured from the earlier skirmish. One Marine had been zipped and indexed for return to Earth, and the engineering crew had patched the ship's spine where 3 dorsal corridors showed blackened scorch. Yet none of it felt finished, as if the ship had only brushed against the real story and retreated too soon. He stood alone in the operations deck, eyes locked on his personal slate. The satellite debris they had collected earlier had already been logged and sealed, officially listed as remnants of a derelict pirate relay gone unstable. But Rourke had seen too many operations spawn into neat, explainable stories. This was different. The satellite's alloy wasn't in any known registry. Its design had no human root, and the signal logs it had transmitted before its collapse, they were old. Not weeks, not months, but decades. He scrolled deeper into restricted archives, following access paths meant for senior officers only. The company's probe telemetry records looked polished, curated for public consumption. But every log held a trail of metadata, and when he traced it back, bypassing layers that had been carelessly redacted, a pattern began to show. Over 32 years, 23 probes had been launched toward the far edge of regulated space. Most were low-cost units, no bigger than cargo pods, designed for resource mapping and long-cycle gravitational surveys. 17 had never returned. 5 had no official launch records at all, their tags hidden under vague project names like Pioneer Variant Drift and Intraspatial Recon Asset Echo, each probe's last signal aligned with the same general region sector. 19F, a dead zone beyond even frontier settlement lanes. The map showed nothing there, just a notation buried deep in an old cartographer's file. Unstable signal return. No natural orbitals. Recommended avoidance. That alone wasn't unusual. Deep space held plenty of strange interference regions. But paired with Dresden Reach's sudden collapse and the alien satellite now in the Edge's cargo bay, it felt deliberate, as if all paths pointed toward something people had been avoiding for a long time. He keyed into the comms and sent an encrypted message to Bastion Command, routed directly to the political liaison, Helen Vulcan. His voice was steady as he spoke, though he could feel pressure behind every word. Sector Ops, Captain Rourke, Dresden Theater, discretionary escalation request. Subject, Deep Field Recon Sector 19F, anomaly. Attachment, satellite engagement. Logs and probe convergence overlay. Recommend immediate corporate review. Awaiting instruction. 40 minutes later, a response came through. Vulcan never used visual feeds unless absolutely necessary. The speaker crackled with her voice, clear, sharp, but holding a weight he recognized. Commander, your data has been reviewed. Pattern confirmed. We have cross-checked against probe losses and acknowledge your assessment. Sector Defense has been notified. Hold your position. Reinforcements inbound. Cruiser Langley and 2 corvettes, 8 to 6 days. Rourke stared at the console. I don't think we have 6 days. There was a pause, quiet except for the background hum of the ship. Your vessel is secure? There is no immediate threat. There wasn't a threat before we scanned that satellite either. For a moment, there was nothing but open static, as if she were deciding whether to hang up. He continued anyway, his voice low, tired but certain. This isn't unrest, Helen. Dresden Reach didn't fall because of some labor strike or oxygen failure. It was shut down fast, surgical. Whatever did it is still out there. Her silence was heavier this time, as if the words were being weighed against the company's narrative ledger. And if you're right, James, and we're already late, but you are not cleared to make that call. I'm not asking to act on it. I'm asking to look. Another pause, and a sharp breath through the speaker. Define look. 4-day forward recon to 19F. Limited jump, 1 battalion. Passive scans only, daily check-in. If we hit anything live, we pull back. Channel clicked to a hold tone. 93 seconds later, it reconnected. Her voice came back colder, composed. You're approved for orbital survey extension. That's the tag you use. We'll load it into your mission stack so it appears sanctioned. Unofficially, you're on your own, James. He exhaled through his nose. Any warnings? Another. Pause, but shorter this time. If you find something out there, don't try to understand it. Just log it and return. The company decides what it means. The channel cut. The bridge crew received new orders 15 minutes later. Orbital survey. Extension outer survey. Officially, they were looking for more debris. Unofficially, they were heading into a part of space no one wanted to claim. James Rourke stood at the center of the bridge as the jump capacitors powered up. The slipstream window loomed into view. Pale green, thin ribbons of plasma dancing at its edges. Behind them, Dresden Reach rotated gently on the distant horizon, already fading from relevance. Ahead was an emptiness with no name, no history, no human claim. Rourke felt something tighten in his chest. Not fear, not yet, just the sense of stepping into a place that did not expect humans to arrive. He tapped his boot twice against the deck and gave the order they'd been waiting for. Engage. 2 days later, the Hawthorne's edge slipped out of jump space with a deep metallic groan that shivered through its hull. The deck under James Rourke's boots flexed slightly, as if adjusting back to the universe's regular laws. Outside the viewports, the stars looked wrong, not in their position, but in their spacing, as though the sky had been stretched thin and emptied of warmth. There were fewer points of light than there should have been, every gap between them wider than instinct liked. The ship hadn't dropped directly into the dead zone. That was intentional. Rourke had ordered the navigator to cut a sector short. No one aboard had wanted to jump blind into a region flagged decades ago for unstable signal coherence. That kind of warning stuck with the crew. Even the veterans walked softer when those old cartographers' notes came up. The bridge lights were dim, standard protocol for low-emission stealth, but it felt more than procedural. It felt necessary, as though bright light might invite attention from something launching. Voices stayed low. Even the usual background banter was gone, replaced by the kind of silence people adopt at funerals or hospitals. Course plotted, Helmsman Marin said, her voice steady but quieter than usual. 2.9 million kilometers to the 19F. Boundary. No active threats. M baseline is noisy how? Rourke asked, like interference across multiple bands. Static, bleeding through everything. Confirmed, said Drake from sensors, his eyes fixed on 3 separate screens. Radiation's high, not lethal, but persistent. Spectrum's inconsistent. No natural decay signature. Rourke stepped closer to the console, arms folded behind him. Could be why the probes went dark here. Interference alone could scramble telemetry. Drake shook his head. This isn't random drift. It's layered. There's a pattern under it. Not clear, but something structured. The captain's jaw tightened. Helm, bring us in on cold drift. 2% thrust, no grav assists. Full emissions blackout. We go quiet. The engines wound down until the ship was moving mostly on inertia. No radar pulses, no active pings, nothing to announce their presence. The ship became just another silent object sliding through space, pretending to be dead weight. Even the heating system throttled down to reduce their thermal signature. The ship's hum grew softer, and for a long while, the only sound was the slow hiss of recycled air through the ducts an hour into the drift, the asteroid field came into view. Dozens of bodies, from shuttle-sized rock fragments to mountains of spinning stone, drifted in lazy arcs. Some were scarred, ancient collision marks, and deep burn grooves like old wounds. Others were suspiciously smooth, almost engineered. Rourke stared at one particularly large rock that rotated close to their trajectory. Its surface was patterned, shallow circular impressions that didn't look entirely natural. He didn't comment, and neither did anyone else. Some details you leave unspoken until you're sure they won't follow you into dreams. Field density increasing ahead, Marin said. Running silent track, weaving through high albedo signatures. Keep it tight, Rourke replied. Mask us behind whatever cover you can find. No straight lines. The Hawthorne's edge glided into the asteroid belt like a predator slipping through tall grass. Shields stayed up but dormant. External scans stayed passive, gathering only what their ship's skin could feel. For 20 minutes, the only light came from the faint glow of instrument panels and the occasional flicker of static on sensors. No one spoke louder than necessary. A bridge felt like a waiting room, where no one wanted to know the result then. The radiation started spiking, not in sharp bursts, but in steady waves, as though something out there was breathing energy into space. Interference thickened, bleeding across every sensor window. Even visual feeds shimmered faintly, like trying to look at a horizon through heat waves. It's not background radiation, Drake said, leaning in toward his console. It's modulated, deliberate, might be transmission bleed. Artificial? Rourke asked, strong chance. Signal rhythm isn't random. Someone or something is pushing against detection here. The captain's gaze shifted to the forward viewport. The asteroids thinned beyond a certain point, revealing wide stretches of open space where shadow should have ended. Instead, there was a shimmer, a reflection maybe. For a second, it looked like stray starlight, but it moved. Visual contact, Rourke said quietly. Bearing high 70, 25 starboard. Lath, his second in command, adjusted the magnification. I see it, the shimmer steadied. Another 100 kilometers closer, the distortion resolved into hard angles, cutting through the asteroid. Field's natural curves, like a knife edge. It was black, almost invisible, except where thin lines caught faint glints of distant starlight. A structure, massive and alien in design. Multiple returns, Marin said, her voice barely above. Whisper. Definite structure. No symmetry I recognize. The main display flickered, trying to stabilize the profile. Slowly, an image built itself from fragments. A central spire stretched from a wide hexagonal frame. 6 angled arms extended outward, like spider legs, giving it a posture that felt predatory, even at rest. No human signature, Drake said. Materials are composite, dense, partially reflective. Doesn't match any known fabrication method, cloaked? Lath asked. Not exactly, Drake replied. It's hiding by shape, not by tech. It doesn't advertise, but it's not invisible either. It wants to blend, not vanish. Rourke stared at the thing in silence. Around it were smaller objects, docked like parasites, on a host body-sleek shapes with curved hulls and segmented appendages folded tight against their bodies. They weren't human ships. Nothing about them suggested crew windows or heat exhausts. They looked insectoid. The captain let out a slow breath. This is where the probes died. No one argued. The silence of the bridge deepened, pressing against the crew like a weight. For a moment, no one breathed. The alien station filled the main display, its structure so utterly foreign, it felt like looking at an animal that had evolved in a world without eyes. The central spire glimmered faintly, lined with panels that looked more grown than built, as if they had been layered over decades of silent work. The 6 arms splayed outward, each jointed in ways that didn't follow any human engineering principle. They weren't symmetrical, yet every piece looked intentional. Around it, the insectal craft clung to anchor points like barnacles on a hull, folded inward as though sleeping. No thermal signature worth noting, Drake said quietly. Reactor running cold. Power output minimal, but steady. Whatevers. In there, it's efficient, tight band transmission detected, Marin added, eyes flicking across her readouts. Pulse duration matches the wrecked satellite near Brink settlement. Same modulation pattern. Rourke kept his voice low, though the urge to shout was there in his chest. So this is what it was talking to. Seems like it, Drake replied. Not a relay beacon either, at least not a simple one. Signals multi-layered, telemetry or encrypted comms maybe. 6-band overlay. Nothing resembling human language. Captain Lath crossed his arms, his expression fixed on the angular spire. So either it's calling home or calling forward. Rourke thought about the dead colony. The debris sealed in their cargo hold. The single Marine zipped into a body bag he hadn't even known by name. He thought about the silence on bastions. And the pressure Volca had admitted was building up there. A corporate hand shoving truth into a box so small it suffocated mark every visible node, Rourke said finally. Full position lock. No emissions, no active scan. We just watch. The Hawthorne's edge drifted forward at a crawl, its hull cold and dark against the black. The alien station didn't react. The docked ships didn't stir. But there was a pattern to how they were arranged, like each one was angled toward open space in readiness. They weren't moored haphazardly. They were waiting. Think they see us? Lath asked, his voice low enough to barely carry across the bridge. No. Way to tell, Marin said. If they have, they don't care. Or we don't register as a threat. Rourke stared at the spider-limbed craft. They were smooth, curved, utterly alien. No sign of windows or weapons. But that meant nothing. Whoever built them hadn't built them for human eyes. It was like looking at an answer to a question humanity had never thought to ask. He felt it then, the same weight that had wrapped around the colony. A kind of silence that felt deliberate. Lath glanced at him. We need to notify Bastion. Volca has to see this. She already knows, Rourke said. The words came out flat, colder than he intended. He didn't clarify, and Lath didn't press the silence. Lasted for maybe 20 seconds, long enough for it to settle into everyone's bones. Then one of the docked ships moved. No thrusters, no glow of exhaust, no startup whine. It simply detached, floating free like it had always been in motion, and the docking clamps had been an illusion. Separation event, Marin said, eyes wide. Trajectory. Drift only, no powered burn. It's arcing. On the holomap, its path unfolded in pale lines, a looping arc that swung wide at the station and curved back in a graceful elliptical sweep. Projection? Rourke asked. Closest pass in about 2 hours, Marin replied. 20,000 kilometers out if it doesn't alter. Size? 5 meters long, under 10 tons. Looks like a drone. Maybe a courier or sensor craft. It's light. Drake checked his feed. Still no emissions. It's gliding on a preset. Vector. Could be a perimeter sweep. The captain leaned over the plot, watching as 3 more small signatures appeared at the station's far side, each one fanning out like the first, all moving wide of the station in overlapping arcs. 4 total. Marin said, patterns consistent. No formation flight, though. Looks automated. It left exactly 90 seconds after we locked our second passive scan. Drake added quietly. No one said it outright, but the thought hung between them like an electrical charge. It knew. How long until it crosses 40,000 kilometers? Rourke asked. 72 minutes, he straightened. Flag it. Every sensor window focused the second it crosses. That's our decision point. Lath frowned. Decision point for what? For whether we touch it or let it pass. The words settled heavily, and for the first time since leaving slipspace, someone swallowed audibly. The strategy deck was barely lit, the only glow coming from the circular holodisplay in the center. The drone's arc painted a thin wedge of light across their faces, its vector unchanging, its speed steady. The silence was so tight it almost hummed. Rourke stood at the table, hands clasped behind his back as the team filtered in. Drake took a seat near the tactical interface, his shoulders sharp with tension. Dr. Malin, head of science, moved slower, his eyes fixed on the holla as though it were an animal ready to spring. Lath stayed near the door, arms folded, leaning against the bulkhead with deliberate calm that no one entirely believed. "All right," Rourke began, voice low. "We have an unidentified object, likely autonomous, closing to 20,000 clicks. In just over an hour. No active scan, no emissions we can detect. If it's looking at us, it's not announcing it. If it's not looking at us, then it's running a sweep wide enough to ignore anything smaller than a cruiser. So I want options." Drake was the first to speak. "If it's automated and we're inside its detection envelope, it should have flagged us already. The fact that it hasn't could mean two things. One, it hasn't seen us, or two, it has, and it doesn't care." "Doesn't care?" Lath's voice carried a dry edge. "What kind of drone sees an unregistered warship and doesn't care?" "The kind that already knows what it's looking for," Drake replied. "Protocol, not improvisation. Someone put this thing on a leash years ago and never let it off." Malin finally spoke, his tone careful. "Or it's bait." The room went quiet. At that, the word heavy enough to shift the air. "You think it's testing us?" Rourke asked. "If it's aware of us, yes. We made 2 passive sweeps, and it detached 90 seconds after the second one. There's no guarantee it's coincidence. That's a reaction time consistent with automated threat assessment." Lath crossed his arms tighter. "Or we spooked a routine patrol." Malin gave a soft, humorless laugh. "Routine patrols don't float cold with no emissions and launch. After 30 years of pretending nothing's here." Rourke raised a hand. "All right, what's the safe play?" "Do nothing," Malin said instantly. "Let it pass. Keep watching. We stay hidden. We gather data without touching a single thing. No risk of escalation." Drake shook his head. "You know what we're looking at. This is the first object to leave that station since we arrived. It's a chance we don't get again. We recover it. We learn what kind of tech they're using, maybe even what their orders are. Recover it how?" Lath asked. "You're not suggesting we launch a shuttle?" "No," Drake said. "Too obvious. We use a magnetic tether. Starboard bay, low thrust. No active burn, no emissions. Success rate 90% if it doesn't change course. And if it does, then it already knows we're here, and we're already compromised." The words hung like a quiet verdict. If it was bait, touching it would mean playing directly into someone else's plan. If it wasn't, letting it go could mean losing the one clear lead they had on who or what built the station's science. Rourke asked, turning to Malin. "Data from a distance will tell us nothing," Malin said. "Its hull composition, its power source, even its internal structure. None of that's readable passively at this range. Not with the interference in this sector. If you want answers, you'll have to physically take it. But whatever you find could be enough to make whoever built that station stop pretending we're invisible." Rourke glanced back to the drone's soft blue icon on the holla. It just drifted, silent and sure, like it had nowhere better to be. And all the time in the world to get there. He turned to the team. "We wait for the 40,000 click threshold." If it continues on course and does nothing, we recover it. If it changes course or pings us, we shut down and let it go. Understood? Number. One argued. They only nodded, each with their own private thoughts of how badly this could go. As they left the room, Rourke stayed behind, watching the icon move closer on its arc. He didn't say it out loud, but the thought gnawed at him as steady as the pulse of the drone's trajectory. What if touching it is the only way to find out why the colony died? 40,000 clicks out, the drone was a faint blur against the scattered light of distant stars, moving with an eerie precision that no human pilot could imitate. The Kensington had gone fully dark. No active power signatures, no visible thruster output, just slow gravitational drift. The crew's voices were hushed, their movements deliberate, as though sound itself might carry across space and give them away. Rourke stood at the forward observation port, eyes fixed on the speck of alien metal gliding closer. Drake stood too, his right tapping through final calculations on a handheld display. "Starboard bay is ready," Drake said. "Tether is primed, magnetic field at minimal output until contact. One burn, half a second, no bigger than a pebble's gravity shift. If it's truly passive, it'll never register us. And if it's not passive?" Rourke asked without looking away from the window. "Then we find out faster than we'd—" Like Lath stepped in from behind, his expression calm, but his hands clasped too tightly to hide the tension. "The crew knows what's at stake," he said. "No chatter, no stress leaks. We're steady?" "Good," Rourke said. "Drake, run it." The starboard bay opened with almost no sound, an engineered whisper of atmosphere containment and mechanical precision. A small tether drone, no larger than a maintenance pod, slipped into open space and pivoted to align with the approaching object. Its trajectory was perfect, a shallow intersect that would bring it alongside the alien. Drone without crossing its forward vector. Malin's voice came through softly on the comm. "Distance 30,000. Its emissions are still flat. No active sensors, no thermal bloom, no drive signature. If it's awake, it's pretending to be dead. Maybe it is dead." Lath muttered, though no one believed it. The minutes passed like hours, every second stretching thin in the silence. The alien drone drifted closer, its shape finally visible on visual feeds. It was smooth, almost organic, with curved edges that merged into a core body without seams or panels. Its surface caught light in strange, dull ways, like it was designed to swallow reflections instead of scatter them. There were no windows, no markings, nothing to suggest direction or allegiance. 15,000 clicks, Malin said. "No. Change." Drake keyed the microthrusters on the tether drone. A soft hum rippled through the Kensington's deck, the faintest vibration from a thrust so minor it barely registered. The tether drone arced gracefully toward intercept, a magnetic claw at its tip already warming up. 10,000 clicks, Malin said. Still no change. Either it doesn't see us, or it doesn't care. The tether drone closed the gap. 2,000 meters. 1,000. Its magnetic claw extended, reaching for the alien drone's hull like a hunter stretching toward prey. Contact in 3, 2. The tether latched with a soft, metallic thud that echoed only in their instruments. It was done. The alien drone didn't flinch, didn't emit, didn't resist. It just kept drifting. "We have it," Drake said, exhaling. "Tether secure." Pulling it to bay, the Kensington adjusted its drift, so subtle it felt like the ship was holding its breath. The alien drone slid along the tether toward the open bay doors. It crossed the threshold with a hollow resonance that vibrated through the deck plating. Then the doors sealed, and they had it bring internal scans online, Rourke said. His voice lower than before. "Keep it isolated. No network link." The internal bay lights revealed the alien drone in full for the first time. It was smooth, black with a faint green sheen under the LEDs, shaped like a long teardrop flattened along its belly. No obvious joints, no propulsion vents, no access panels. Its surface was one seamless material, as though grown instead of built. Malin crouched near the scanning rail, eyes narrowed. There's no intake vents, no visible maintenance ports. I'm not even sure how it's held together. Power source? Rourke asked. None, Malin said, shaking his head. Or at least nothing we can detect. No radiation, no thermal. Signature. It's inert. If it's running anything, it's running it in a way we don't understand. The drone gave no response to their presence. Number signals, no defense measures. It was as if they had grabbed a piece of space junk, except space junk didn't look like it was grown for war. Get samples, Rourke ordered. But do not cut into it until we know what we're touching. Malin nodded and motioned to a tech. Team. They moved in with scanners and spectrometers, the hum of equipment filling the bay. Then one of the techs froze. Commander, she said quietly. There's something on the surface. What is it? Rourke stepped closer. The tech pointed to a faint etching, almost invisible unless viewed from the right angle. It wasn't words or symbols, at least not in any language they knew. It was a pattern spiraling lines that intersected and twisted back on themselves in layered loops. It looked deliberate, crafted with precision, but its meaning was impossible to guess. The moment stretched, no one speaking. Then Malin's scanner pinged sharply. A sound that cut the air like a blade. Commander, he said, staring at his readout. Something just woke up inside it.